It's funny because before Topic Arlo, I had to be a lot more careful about like what topics I chose to make videos out of. And now with Topic Arlo, I can just really any gaming opinion I have, I can throw out there. But the thing is, it's really starting to like highlight how many of my gaming opinions really just kind of boil down to hoping big companies mess up, hoping that big, evil, greedy gaming corporations screw up and just kind of laughing at them when they do. You know, it's very petty. It is. With all the Concord stuff, we already went over that, and now with Ubisoft, it's just like it is petty. And you know, as always, it goes without saying that like when these companies mess up, if anything, that just makes them even more desperate and more likely to hurt people, and often the employees are the ones who end up having to pay for it. Like, I know that's all. It's all part of the horrible game that they're all playing. But at least on some level, I have to take some satisfaction when these big companies who are so greedy and so evil are also just so stupid. You know what I mean? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And Ubisoft, there are few game companies who play games as stupid as Ubisoft does. And, you know, and I did that big Ubisoft is a sinking ship video some time back. So I don't know, I guess that video did really well. You know, kind of like all the Concord stuff. People like this kind of video, so a video like that does that well. And you're like, all right, well, I guess hating Ubisoft is now part of my job description now. You know, put that on the list. So we're talking about Ubisoft today because it seems that they are not doing well. And when I did that video, they were already like really not doing well. That was part of the whole, you know, the thesis, the idea that they were a sinking ship. But it seems that since that video went out, they have not improved. Their situation is not improved, and they just keep messing up. They just don't know what they're doing. You know, that's the thing about these big, huge companies, and the only games that they produce are these enormously expensive AAA games. And even just a little bit of bad decision making about like what course they should take, you will see that reflected in just years of the company's history. You know, like one bad move, one bad idea wiggling into the heads of the upper executives can mess up the company just for years. And over these last several years now, we see Ubisoft just doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on all of the wrongest ideas, you know, like only going after the worst ideas, only just trying so hard to get a piece of that live service pie, all that different stuff, monetizing their games in even grosser ways. And now they're getting to the point where they're just failing so often. They're creating these big games and they're just not even that good. And we'll talk about some of the specifics here. Point is though, they're really not, they're not doing well. I think right now the absolute biggest problem is, I mean, like like today, you know, is Star Wars Outlaws apparently did not do well. It did not review particularly well, and apparently it didn't sell well either. I kind of thought that was a gimme. It's Star Wars. It's a big open world Star Wars. I kind of thought it would do pretty all right just because the IP is so huge. And there are a lot of people. There is a big market for these kinds of games. The big AAA open world games. Like, there's a reason people keep making them. It could just be like the market is just too flooded now. People are getting a little tired of these big open world games that just take like hundreds of hours. Whatever the case, though, it seems that game didn't do that well. And again, you put all your eggs in this basket. You know, that game was one of their games this year. They needed it to do well. That's the thing. When you inflate the budgets, you make the games bigger and bigger and bigger. When it doesn't work out, it is a massive, massive problem. So that didn't sell really well. They also announced that they were delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows into next year. So that all of these things can have an effect on a company's stock prices. And we talked about this in the video, like their stock prices were already on a rather downward trend. You know, they were kind of like up and down for a while. And then around 2020 pandemic, they had like 1 or 2 good successes and their stock prices went crazy and they were like really successful for a while. And since then it's just been going down. Apparently they lost half of their market value just this year. And according to the article I read, when they announced the thing that we're about to talk about, not yet, there was a nice little like increase. But now I'm looking at the numbers. I'm not registering that there was an increase. If there was an increase, it went back down again because I'm looking at it and it is like, it's not an all-time low, but yeah, the last time it was this low was like 2014, so about 10 years ago. And that's the thing, they've been getting down further and further, closer to back when they just weren't as big, you know, like back when they were a company that was like doing fine, but like they were not this really, really massive. I mean, I guess they kind of were back then. They were making AAA games. They weren't like an obscure little company or whatever, but like their company was just not worth even almost as much. And the thing is, they're still trending down. It's just not stopping. Like the absolute peak was in, let's see, apparently in 2018. Wow. Yeah, they had a big spike in 2018 and then it dipped pretty sharply. And then in 2020, it went up and it was very, very high and they were worth a lot of money. And since then it's just been going down, you know, some spikes here and there. They're hemorrhaging, you know, it's going down and it's just not going up again. So basically they're at this point where apparently they are looking at their options because pivoting did not work for them. They pivoted. They said, let's do just almost nothing but live service games. That didn't work. And now they just keep greenlighting on, you know, they said, let's do licensed games. Let's do Avatar. Let's do Star Wars. And it's not working out for them either. So they're basically forced to look at their company and think, what can we do? And just figuring out which trend to chase, whether we should go after AI or, you know, crypto, or just get even nastier with the kinds of microtransactions we put in our games. Like, it's not working. So one option is obviously just looking for a buyout. You know, there was a while back, there was what was it, Viacom or something was trying to buy them, and kind of a hostile takeover situation. They didn't want that, but now they're like, we might just need to find somebody who wants to buy the company. I don't know who would want to buy a company like that. That's absolutely tanking. At the same time, if you get somebody who's actually competent to have the company, maybe they'll know what to do. So that is one option. But another option that I am genuinely surprised is on the table at all. I'm surprised is even in the conversation is the idea of making the company private again. Taking it off the market, transitioning back to a privately owned company. And I mean, it would be weird. You know, I don't know. Are there any privately owned obviously not AAA ones, but like what's the biggest privately owned game company? I honestly don't know. They're all publicly traded. Every business basically is. So again, I'm surprised I don't know a lot about all this. Let me just get that out right away. I don't know much about all this stuff, but it seems surprising to me that they would even consider it. And honestly, that's, from what little I know of economics, again, not much, that is the best possible thing that could happen. That is the best case scenario. Now, lots of us don't really quite understand what's so bad about publicly traded companies. I know that I didn't before like a few years ago when I started to learn about how messed up basically everything is. So just for a brief summary, just the way that I see it, a healthy, privately owned company is one that has employees and, you know, creates products or services, whatever, like they sell something and they make money. and the employees all get paid, and the people who own the company, you know, the CEOs or whatever, they get paid. They probably get most of them. They get all the extra money, you know, you pay your employees, and everything extra, that's profit. And that can go to the owners, or it could just kind of go in the bank for later. That's the money that you will use to invest and grow the company, invest in more products or whatever. And that is a healthy business. It's just like customers give business money for goods and services, and the people who own the company make money, and they do whatever they want with that money. But when a company is publicly traded, it means that this company has shares, and you know, you own the shares means you own a part of the company, and all of the people who own shares, they're splitting the revenue basically based on however many shares they have, and they also, the more shares they have, the more of a say they have in how the company is run. And like on paper that makes sense. These are quote unquote investors in a sense, because when they made the company go public, there was a massive flood of money from people buying a part of the company. So you call them investors, but the problem is the stock market is it's a game. It's a game that rich people play. It's not real. It's all just like imaginary numbers. And this is basically what fuels the absolutely just bonkers, unchecked greed that's, like I said, just kind of messing up everything right now, is because now you're in a situation where you're like, okay, I have my company, but instead of just focusing on making as much money as I can to fuel the company and, you know, pay me as the CEO or whatever, now there's like 50 other people, just an arbitrary number, but now there's a bunch of other people who literally don't do anything in the company. They don't do anything. All they do is vote, and they're going to vote for the thing that gets them more money because they're all rich investors. They don't care about the employees. They don't care about the customers. They don't care about company goodwill. They just want more money. So now there's this pressure on the company to make more money all the time, more money. And you're funneling all of this, just an excessive amount of money, to all of these people who do not contribute at all. They just want you to make more money, and that's the problem. That's why we see this greed. That's why these companies do what they do. That's why no money is ever enough, because there's so many people who want a piece of the pie. They just keep pressuring the cook to make more pie, bigger pies, more expensive pies. So all of that to say, Ubisoft transitioning back into a privately owned company, and now it's just, you know, a company that provides goods and services. Now it's just a company that makes games, and when it sells those games, the money goes to the people who are actually running the company, who are actually doing something. Not that executives do a whole lot, you know, they make these decisions, but at least, yeah, they're doing something. And that would take all of this pressure off of the company, off of every game to have to be the biggest, best game ever. Every game has to make $100 trillion million. Like, this wouldn't be a thing anymore. You wouldn't have all of these quote unquote investors breathing down your neck. And if anything was going to actually save Ubisoft and, you know, give Yves Guillemot his Scrooge moment where he just like suddenly wakes up one day and is like, I don't have to be evil. I don't have to be this just absolutely just vile person who's just the most horribly abusive and greedy person. I don't have to hurt everybody. I don't have to hurt all of my employees. I can just like make some games and sell them. And it'll be okay, and all the employees will get paid, and I'll still be rich, you know? Whoever's running the company will still probably be filthy rich. There'll be extra money to go around because you're not divvying it up between all of these shareholders. It's the best possible thing that could happen to Ubisoft. It's just, they would no longer have a need to make such an over-the-top amount of money just to be sustainable, just to stay the course. And that could mean, in theory, less, I wouldn't put anything past Yves Guillemot and the Guillemot family, but like less microtransactions, you know, less trend chasing and inflated budgets and just all of that stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, in my video, I did say, like, okay, you know, they're really tanking, but they're probably not going to, like, go away completely anytime soon. Probably not. You know, usually a ship that big takes a lot to sink, and there's always going to be something that they can do to stay afloat. But yeah, looking at those numbers, though, it's like they really are a sinking ship, and that's why this conversation is happening. And maybe even right now they can kind of play it off and be like, well, you know, I mean, we're always reassessing our options. You know, things are always on the table. That doesn't mean we're gonna do it, but like this time next year, if that line is even lower, and now, I mean, like at this rate, like they're not the lowest they've ever been, their stock prices, but at this rate, it won't be long. Like it will not be long at all. Like if the trend continues, you know, if you draw a line on this like downward slope, this time next year, yeah, probably the lowest they've ever been. The absolute lowest ever was in 2002. And I mean, it's just, they're not far from that point. And that kind of downward trend, that kind of loss in value really and truly can lead to the closure of a company. Absolute bankruptcy is not off the table right now. So who knows what they'll do? Who knows what they might do? Maybe they'll, let's see, what's 5? Quintuple, right? Maybe they'll quintuple down on everything that they've been doing. I don't even know what number they're on at this point. Science can't possibly measure it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, I guess.